Hi, I'm Robbie, and in addition to our series Making Exhibitions, a short one about the use of background music at exhibitions. We talk about background music when the music in fact has no relation to the exhibition, but to the location where the exhibition is held. So this is a clear difference with music that is part of an exhibition. We can distinguish two important types of background music. On one side, filling up background music, and on the other side, the additional background music. So let's start with the filling up background music. Visitors always make noise. We are usually not aware of this because there's always noise present in public areas. But an exhibition space is usually isolated from outside noise, and there is, above all, very present silence, and that ensures that we hear all the sounds we make ourselves, and that gives a somewhat uneasy feeling. Making noise will be irritating to ourselves as well to other visitors at the exhibit. And it's not always possible to suppress this type of noise. In a highland reverberant room, sound-absorbing material such as honeycomb-like panels can be used to suppress. The use of high-capacity sound insulation panels can almost completely eliminate the reverberation. However, this is not a cheap solution, and it does not always solve all problems. So, for this reason, background music is often a good solution to suppress unwanted sounds on the one hand, and on the other hand to ensure that there is a certain amount of non-disruptive but pleasant sound. Because when there is music playing in the background, visitors often feel less present, especially in small spaces. So it's a good solution for this purpose, but that is where the usefulness of filling up background music ends. Well, what kind of music can we use? Well, there are good practical indications from experience that will help us to make a good choice. Like that it's not enough to turn the music down to very softly. What should absolutely be avoided is to use popular music. Even if the music is played very softly, you still can hear clearly what is being playing, even just after a few notes like this ones. One of the problems with popular music is that people sometimes unconsciously start humming along, or the opposite, some might find it very annoying music. Music with singing cannot be used because a singing voice is a very dominant instrument. This also applies to trumpets and all kind of brass music, the metal instruments. The most pleasant is harmonic music with little dynamics, which you will find in the classical genre but also in jazz music. For example, dynamic music cannot be used because some parts it just sounds really loud and it's not working. To understand how background music, it is interesting to consider the difference between background music in a bookstore and at an exhibition. Books are small objects. Looking at them has a certain intimacy, and it's nice when the music more or less embraced you. At an exhibition, you have more distance from the objects. You stand in the middle of the other visitors. The space must remain open, so the background music must be much less present. Background music should be like perfume. Only when you are standing nearby, you should get the idea that you smell something nice. The same for background music. It should never be more present than the work on display, otherwise it will distract attention from the exhibit. At least two other things are important when using background music. First, you need to know what music you are playing. There are always visitors who want to know what's playing because they want to play the same music at home. If the supervisor says that he has no idea because, well, it was chosen by someone else, Well, it doesn't give the impression that he is very concerned about his work. It's also important that you take in account that royalties may have to be paid for music played in a public space. This is usually the case for music purchased on a store or downloaded from the internet. It may even be the case when you play a record of your own music, because you may still have the copyrights, but those are different with the exploitation rights. Now, about additional background music. The creator of the exhibition, in consultation with the manager of the space, can do much more with background music than just solve the dead silence. There are many possibilities, especially when there are multiple rooms. For example, it can give visitors a very special feeling to enter a room where there is no background music at all. Often, they do not really notice that there was background music before, and then suddenly there's a dead silence. A certain atmosphere can be evoked in all kinds of ways, and you can literally connect with what is shown. If there is work with a lot of landscapes paintings, you can make recordings in nature yourself. Music that contains bird sound is reminiscent to the morning, while music with cricket sound has an evening atmosphere. However, when recording, keep in mind that footsteps can be less relaxing, even when you hear them softly. Although hearing steps on grass or twigs in a large room where no one else is in sight can be very surprising and amusing. So, sunshine doesn't really have its own sound, but rain does. And the sea sounds very different from a forest, while the sound of a city is also very specific. In some exhibitions, it can have a special effect that when you enter the room with landscapes, you hear birds very softly in the background. And when you enter the next room where the urban events are central, you hear the city. So it has a lot of possibilities. The opposite of a beautiful landscape can be a very interesting technical explanation. Atmospheric music can sometimes help to bring the visitor in the right mood. So we can do a lot with genres of music, but one also can achieve a surprising result with the music itself. To start with, your choice of tonality. Music in a minor key and music in a major key gives completely different experience. I can play piano, but still you can hear very well the difference between minor and major. For some art or information, the background music should not be cheerful to put you in the right mood. There are also very practical possibilities by using rhythm and tempo, and not only by playing very quiet music in a room with poetic work. In general, people will consciously or unconsciously go along with the rhythm, which means that waltz, boom, 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 or a march rhythm, boom, 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 is only useful in very special situations. However, an interesting practical use is to walk through and view the exhibition yourself and note how much time you need for this. During the first day after the opening, you can take note how long it takes people to see the exhibition and compare it with your time. Combine this data with what you see and response you hear, like when they tell there was too less time to see it all. Well, they even used more time than you needed. So the situation can be that the background music makes them to walk too slowly. You can then change it to a less slow pace and see if it helps. So by using very different types of background music in different rooms, you can keep a large exhibition very refreshing and entertaining. Fatigue can be prevented by making good use of variation in the background music. And once you start to make more intensive use of background music, it can end up like my project I described in my 7th video in the series Making Exhibition. In this video I'm telling about the street where my gallery was and where all the houses were going to be demolished. I rented all the empty houses for a symbolic euro, and I invited artists to meet in each house a work of art. Composer Anton van Prooijen made a composition for each art house, including for my gallery. And he played that composition live for the Dutch Broadcasting Company, while the demolition of the buildings had already started. So a lot is possible with music. Thank you for watching this video, and when there are certain topics you would like to have covered, please let us know. But if you find those videos about exhibition interesting, let others know. Thank you and see you next time.